I want to start with a thank you and end with a thank you. I want to start with a thank you to our elected officials that could actually give this presentation, and probably better than I can, because that's how dialed in they are to the concerns around senior care. As Mike said, I actually want to start at a high level, and this ties into some stats that Greg provided. Statewide, we had 602 nursing homes until this week. Now we're at 601 with the closing of St. John's and Penfield. Upstate New York, 290. The Rochester Greater Region, 48. Monroe County, 28. That now is 27. And it accounts for about 4,500 beds. What's interesting to note is of the 4,500 beds that are available, there's almost 700 of them that are unstaffed. And that's the crux of the issue. When those beds are unstaffed, people back up in the hospital, or, just like Rita, end up going to a town they had never heard of before to live. So, walking along, this graph kind of reflects what Anne Marie was talking about as far as the aging population. If you look at the explosion of those that are 75 plus from now until 2040, by the way, from now to 2040 is like from now back to 2000. It's going to go like that. But you look at the blue line. That is those that are of the working age, and we define that as 25 to 55 years old. That actually goes down slightly. We're seeing this inverse, and if you're not available to care for your loved one, where do they go? By the way, as a skilled nursing operator, I will stand here publicly and say the best thing we could do is keep people out of nursing homes. Keep them in their home, keep them in home and community-based services. That is the right thing to do. But the reality is, one day, they may need skilled care, and will we have it? I will share with you a nursing home that I'm particularly familiar with, St. Anne's. The average number of diagnoses for a person that lives in long-term care at St. Anne's Community is 22 diagnoses. Their average length of stay in the nursing home is 7 months. Back in 2010, when I came to St. Anne's, it was 26 months. So people are staying in the community longer, but when they come, there's a need. So let's just talk real quick about where does the nursing home fit into the ecosystem of healthcare. You have your doctor's office, patient in the center. You have your doctor's office, home care, adult day, outpatient. But at some point, you start accessing the ED and you start accessing that hospital. Oftentimes, you're back home with home care and support services. But there are times that you need that short-term rehab. And that short-term rehab, I'll share with you at our facility, 78% of the folks go home. But for those that can't, they look at assisted living or long-term care, the nursing home. The nursing home is a vital piece of that healthcare ecosystem. Currently, as we sit here today, each of our 4 major hospitals in Monroe County have literally 100 or greater people sitting on what they call an alternate level of care, ALC, meaning they no longer need hospital care. They need to go to a nursing home, but there are not beds available. So why is this? If you look at the graph in New York State, between Western New York and Central New York, about 80% of nursing homes lose money. They have negative operating margins. If you think about it, we have not had a substantial increase to our Medicaid base rate since 2007. Low nursing home Medicaid rates lead to insufficient funds, which lead to staffing shortages, closure of beds, either closing of the complete nursing home or taking beds offline, and that leads to the overcrowded hospitals. It's something that's happening right in front of us in plain sight. If we want to talk a little bit about since 2007, is there anybody here who's actively working and making less today than you were making in 2007? Typically not. Even if you were on Social Security, you have seen a 31% increase. The favorite topic nowadays is eggs. Eggs have gone up 220%, and by the way, I think this slide is already dated since last week, and minimum wage. In 2007, when we set the cost reimbursement for nursing homes, minimum wage was $7.15. Today it's $15.50 and going up another 50 cents next year. The increase of 117% does not reflect the reimbursement. Our local delegation, and I gotta call them out because they are fabulous, went and stood up in conference and said, we need to do something for our nursing homes. And 2 years ago, we saw about a 6% increase. And last year, we saw a flat rate, a one-time, about 4% increase. But what we didn't know is as the budget was being finalized, the Department of Budget took some money back through another component, so the overall net increase was just over 1%. We need to provide care 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with a 1% increase. The math, it doesn't work. It's in the headlines. You see it everywhere. There is a recognition of what's going on, and I think I want to comment, as Anne Marie said, she was disappointed in the governor's budget. I share that same sentiment. I think this is an inheritance issue. I believe our current governor inherited a structural deficit for nursing homes from the prior two administrations. And what she is signaling right now is that her budget does not value or prioritize seniors. There are very few pieces in that budget that you could tie back to seniors. What we need to do is bring it full circle, provide the support and the voice to our elected officials to get more for seniors across the board. I want to share something personal with you. On Tuesday, I was in Albany doing some advocacy work, meeting with our elected officials, which means I needed a hotel room Monday night in Albany. I pulled out my credit card and paid $537 for one night in a Marriott. $537 for one night in a Marriott, and you know what I got out of that deal? A clean bed, a shower, a little Danish, and a cup of juice. The average upstate nursing home receives about $200 a day per Medicaid elder. That $200 a day translates to be about $8.50 an hour over 24 hours. We expect people to earn a living wage in New York as a progressive state at $15.50 an hour minimum wage, but we only invest $8.50 an hour into our seniors. It doesn't tie, it doesn't come together. What I would argue is that investment needs to go up substantially to be able to provide, because what I do know is at that hotel, at that Marriott for $537, a bed, a shower, a Danish, and a cup of juice. For that same time period at St. Anne's Community, you get a doctor, a nurse, a nutritionalist, a social worker, a housekeeper, you get rec therapy, you get grounds, you get 3 meals a day, you get to be engaged in social recreation, you have transportation to medical appointments. All of that is wrapped into $8.50 an hour. So I share that in the context of we need voices, we need your voice. If you noticed in your handout, in your booklet, there's a flyer, a one-page flyer that looks a lot like this, and there's a QR code. If you were to scan that QR code right now, it brings you to our state association's website and sends a letter to the governor saying that we need more funding for nursing homes. We want to do this same thing as we move through both one-house budgets for the Assembly and the Senate. Your voice, our voice collectively is important. What I want to share to you today is, and I think Mike said it well, there are good nursing homes, there are average nursing homes, and then there are those that are less desirable. But without a healthy and vibrant nursing home system, the rest of the healthcare ecosystem falls apart. I can't thank enough the group at GRAPE that has put this together and allowed me to share my passion with you. It's not every day I get to stand in front of folks and say, we do a really, really good job, but we could do a better job with a prioritization of the state around funding. So with that, I want to say thank you and turn it back over to Mike.